Hi everyone, welcome to Yoga with Laurie and Berkshire Yoga Dance and Fitness. I hope everybody's well and enjoying the warmer weather, although it's a little muggy and rainy. So in today's class, it's a little shorter, it's about a half an hour class. So I'm going to just work on a couple of poses, opening up the hips, and then we'll just do a little gentle flow and a final seated meditation. Notice how you feel at the moment, particularly in the area from the ribs down to the knees, that whole midsection area, back, front, sides, inner thighs, outer thighs, knees. And gently rock forward and backward, bringing the hands to the hips, rolodexing the hips until you feel the spine perpendicular. Press down with the hands, lift the ribs, the neck, and roll the shoulders back and down, palms face up. And notice how quickly your attention is brought into this moment simply by focusing on your posture, giving the mind plenty of things to notice. The perpendicularity of the lumbar spine, the ribs are lifted, shoulders rolled back and down, back of the neck lifted, softening the face, palms face up. So this is one of the meditative inroads that yoga has, is bringing our attention onto the body, the sensations, and then the breath. Let each new breath get a little deeper until you build up to your expanded breath, the Dirga Pranayama, the three-part yoga breath. Now, if you know the ujjayi sound, the ocean sound, allow that ocean sound to blend and mix with that deeper breathing. And try to find a balance here, not over-efforting the breath, not straining the breath, but breathing beyond the normal capacity, breathing beyond that normal shallow breathing we fall back into habitually. Inhale, both arms above the head. Exhale, drop that right hand down, leaning into that right side, drop the ear down, and feel the side of the body, hip to shoulder to neck. Inhale, neutral. Exhale, opposite side. Feeling that opposite side. Now continue to bring that right hand down onto the mat, come onto your knees, and turn to face the top of the mat, moving the props out of the way. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Have the knees nice and wide and then sink back into child pose. Press down through the top of the ankles, the top of the foot. Let the head rest against the mat or a block. Reach the arms out. Feel the shoulders. Lengthen the rib cage away from the hips. Inhale, come back to tabletop. Extend the left leg back, drop the ball of the foot and press through that left heel, opening up the back of that left leg. Inhale, release, floating that left leg up, drive out through the heel, knee and toes pointing to the mat. Roll the hip down towards, the left hip down towards the mat so you feel the engagement of that whole left side. Then let that left side's rigidity become fluidity as you bend the knee and bring knee to head, head to knee. So feel these two ends of the spectrum, rigidity driving back, strong bones from hip to heel, and then exhale, soft legs as the muscles bend the knee joint, bend the ankle joint, bend the neck, rounding the back. Feel this mix of strength, stability, and fluidity, sweetness. The next time you extend, pause, extend right hand out into your bird dog pose. Once again, feeling the rigidity, the structure of the pose, the strength. And then exhale, let the hand reach around and grab the foot. Feel that fluidity in the limbs. Right shoulder comes back to open up the chest and lift the chest away from the mat. Feel the quadricep in that back leg. Inhale, lift the foot, lift the knee. Lift the quadricep a little more so you feel it come into the hip flexor. You feel the low back. And then bring that right shoulder back a little more. Exhale, release. Keep that knee lifted. Bring it around into fire hydrant. And then rotating in fire hydrant. Big circle. Lubricating the pelvis, the hips. And the next time you come out into fire hydrant, hold fire hydrant. And then extend that foot off. Drop the foot down. Now look at the foot, how it's positioned. Make sure it's parallel to the long edge of the mat. So you get that nice external stretch on the ankle and the inner thigh. Pick the right foot up and swivel it towards the left foot, and then exhale, come back into awkward child pose and pulse forward. Back, awkward child, and pulse forward. Now the next time you pulse forward, curl the toes of that right foot, pick up the right knee and press back into awkward down dog. Spread the weight evenly around the hands. Push back through the left hand so you feel the right rib cage stretching out. Crown of the head reaches towards the thumbs. Right heel drives back into the mat. Exhale, release, bend both knees, float the left foot back to your mat. Bent knee, downward dog. Once again, evenly distribute the weight around the hands. Lengthen through the arms. Shoulder blades wrap towards the chest. Get all the kinks out of the back. Lengthen the back. Hips go back. Crown of the head reaches towards the thumbs. Press both heels down. And feel your downward dog. Exhale, come forward into high plank. Hold high plank. Feel your strength. Now bring the right hand under the heart and roll onto that right side, stacking left foot on top of right foot. Now if that feels awkward, you can always bend that top leg like this, or you can drop the knee. So either way, lifting that left hand to heaven, and then that left leg up, feeling the openness in the hips here as you lift, open, strength of the upper body supporting you. Exhale, lower, come down to high plank. Let's go to the other side, left hand over, hand on hips, supporting yourself, elevating the pelvis, hand to heaven, option to bring heels to heaven, right here. Exhale, release. Come down into child pose. And just notice how the hips are already starting to open up in that small sequence. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. A little cat and cow. Inhale, extending that right foot back. Drop the ball of the foot. Press out through the right heel. Float the right heel to heaven. Leg rigid, strong. Feel the structure in that. Right hip rolling down towards the mat. Right heel driving out. Toes and knees pointing towards the mat. And then move into fluidity. Feel that leg soften. Feel the whole spine round, curling up. And feel this amazing structure of your skeleton, all the bones working together to be fluid and strong. Fluid and strong, feeling the stability of the core and yet the mobility. The next time you extend, pause, left hand floats out. And then once again, in that stability, feel the mobility as everything bends. Left hand escorts, right foot back towards the buttocks. Now lift the chest so you really feel that left shoulder come back, creating a little stretch across the front of the shoulder on the left side. Now lift the foot, lift the knee, lift the thigh, so you really feel this opening in the hip. Exhale, release. Right knee comes out to the side via hydrant. And then away you go into that big circle. Lubricating the right hip. The next time the knee comes out to the side, pause, and then drop that. Foot parallel to the long edge of the mat. Left foot swivels towards the right to allow full access of that pulsing back and forth. Keeping the outside edge of that right foot grounded. Coming to awkward child. Inhale, hands under shoulders, curl the toes, press up, pressing back, awkward dog. Press through the right hand this time and feel the left rib cage light up with sensation. Feel that inner right thigh open up. And then exhale, float the right foot back to the left foot, bend the knees. Now instead of coming back into bent knee downward dog, walk the feet away from the balls of the feet away from each other, heels touching, heels lifted, balls down, and sink back into the heels into hovering malasana. Feeling that variation. Now walk the hands back, stay on the balls of the feet. Find your balance here as you open up into that balanced butterfly pose. I had to make that name up on the spot. So what does it look like from the front? It simply looks like this. The heels are lifted, the balls of the feet. So it's a wonderful balance pose. It's a big hip opener. Exhale, release. Come on down to the sit bones. And let's come into traditional butterfly or Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. Hands can grab shins, arches, or underneath the feet. I like underneath the feet because I can lock my hands together, and as I rock from side to side, feel that hip opening. If for any reason you feel too much tension in the hip flexors, use blocks to support the thighs. Shoulders roll back and down, bending the elbows, hinge forward. Once again, feeling the hips, feeling the hips. Now in this pose here, you can bring the elbows out, the hinge a little further forward. And as long as you're not suffering from osteopenia, osteoporosis, or a bulging disc, you can round the back and drop the head down towards the toes. So these are all variations of this hip opening. Another variation I learned in Australia, which I learned as Australian crow, is a balance pose. It's fairly intense on the ankle joints, so you may or may not want to come into this. But bringing the hands around behind me, I push up onto the outer edges of the feet. So all my weight wants to fall backwards until I bring the hands in front of me, and that brings me into a balance. And from there, it's possible to lift the hands and play with the balance. Exhale, release. And that's a huge opening inside the thighs, inside the legs. So rolling to one side, come back onto the knees, floating that left knee forward, drop the shin and pivot the lower leg towards your right side. Now obviously we're coming into a variation of pigeon here. Curl the toes of the right foot. Walk the right knee back until you find the aha stretch in that right hip flexor. Once you've found the aha point, flip the foot into plantar flexion so the toenails come down onto the mat, and you should feel that as a little more. If you have space between your thigh and the mat, support it with a block or a blanket. It just gives you something to press against for a reference point. Walking the hands back, and you can use blocks here. I like to use blocks because of the ratio of my arms to the ground here. I can bring it down into umbrella hands here, but I like the blocks. It gives me a little more to push against. Now feel an arch in the low back, a Cobra Arch, blossoming the front of the chest open, shoulders back. Press down with that back foot and just take a small check that back leg is in a nice alignment with the hip, so you can really feel it. Pushing down with the back leg, flowering open the chest, and then feeling the hips here, the legs, the front of the body all opening up. Exhale, gently release. Bring the hands down for support. Curl the toes of the back foot. Lift the back knee. Step back with the left foot. Spread the weight around the hands. Bent knee, downward dog. Lengthen through the arms. Lengthen through the back as long as you can get. No rounding, no curving. Crown of the head reaches forward. Slowly press both heels back. Notice the distinction you feel between right and left side right now. Float the right foot into the sky. Step it forward to that, the right knee towards that right wrist, and drop the shin down. You can bring your supports to the other side. Drop the left knee, walk the left knee back. Pivot the foot into plantar flexion, right thigh coming down towards the ground or a prop. Sometimes yoga gets a little competitive and people try to force this foot into a 90-degree angle up here. Please don't force yourself. If it naturally opens into that comfortably, fine. But if it's not worth the ripping of the knee. It's not worth whatever pressure you put on the joint. Walk the hands back and feel. Proud pigeon, shoulders back. Shoulder blades really trying to kiss here. Chest forward. Feel the Cobra Arch. Check that back foot's alignment. Now bring the left hip forward, right hip back. Really sink into that right thigh. For 3, 2, and 1. Exhale, bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Curl that back toe, step back, downward dog. Bent knees, lengthen through the arms, weight distributed around the hands. Shoulder blades wrap, crown of the head reaches forward, tailbone back, heels down, and feel how the two sides of the body have evened out after that double-sided pigeon. Now from here, bend the knees and either walk the feet to the top of the mat or allow yourself to float or hover to the top of the mat and come into a forward fold, dangling the shins, dangling over the shins with the head, neck and shoulders, torso all draping down. Gently bend the right knee and straighten the left leg. Feel that in the hamstring and switch. Switch. Upper body totally relaxed. Just feeling the sensations shoot through the posterior chain of the legs. And if you have a strap handy, I'm going to recommend you have it handy. Inhale, float the wings out. Come up. I'm going to bring my strap over the shoulders. Reach up. Exhale, prayer. Drop back to this variation of Tadasana, mountain pose. Shoulders roll back and down, ribs lifted, back of the neck lifted. Push down through the heel bones. Squeeze the glutes. As you squeeze the glutes, feel the pelvis come forward a little bit. So you're not overarching that tailbone. So you feel tall, you feel aligned. Now think about the fluidity. Where is the fluidity in Tadasana? We often only think of a mountain pose as simply all bedrock. So the fluidity comes by the rotation of the hands. So there's fluidity in the shoulders. And the other fluidity is in the face. Let the face soften. So preparing to use the hip opening in our balance poses today. Rotate that right foot, right heel against right ankle. Endeavoring to keep the knee and the toe facing that right side. Now press down through the standing leg as you lift that right heel against the calf muscle. If you have the range of motion, bring the foot up into the left thigh. Keep the looseness in the shoulders and the face and the strength in the legs, so the legs root down into the ground. And allow the arms to create whatever branches work for you. Now exhale, release. We're going to stay on that standing leg as you bring that right foot into the hip crease and drop the right knee. And just feel that half lotus. Feel that in the ankle joint. Now from here you can grab the toes to extend that foot forward, or if you have a strap, you can extend that right leg forward using the hand against the toe and the pushing out of the leg to create stability. Left hand out to the side if you'd like as you rotate that extended leg to the right. A big hip opener here, using the core to stabilize you and allowing any tumbling to be part of the process as you release and lower. As you release and lower, avoid the temptation to shake out the standing leg. Let yourself fully be flooded with sensation from the standing leg. Avoid the temptation to automatically move away from the discomfort created by that isometric grounding. And notice over time how the sensation fades naturally. I like to think of it as bringing a heated piece of iron out of the fire, and as it cools down it becomes hardened steel. But that's me. Rotate that left foot, left heel against the ankle. Once again, root down in the standing leg, heel down, buttocks hip slightly forward, getting the alignment of the trunk as you lift that left foot either below the kneecap or above the kneecap. I know some people are tempted to push against the kneecap, but the kneecap wasn't designed for lateral pressure, so avoid that foot on the kneecap. Once again, coming into your branches, whatever they look like. And once again, just allowing, if there's any tumbling or losing balance, to be part of the process. Part of the growing process as you release that foot, grabbing the toe with your peace fingers or your strap, extending left leg and then opening out that left leg. Beautiful hip opener. When you're ready, bringing it back and releasing, elegantly or otherwise. So one final hip opener as we come down, ready for a brief seated meditation, is to pivot the feet out to the side, bend the knees and slowly come down. There'll be a temptation to either round the back or come up onto the balls of the feet. If you can, drop down onto the heels and get the spine nice and perpendicular. One way to work with this pose, if you're struggling with that alignment, is to take a couple of blocks, sit on the blocks, and then work on the feet coming out and the elbows and leaning forward to give you that growing range of motion until you can come into your variation of squatting prayer or Baddha Trikonasana, bound triangle, if you like to go there. Now from here it's natural that you can come down onto a seated position, so you can grab something to sit on, a blanket, bolster, or block. And then depending on your knees, you can either extend the legs out. If your knees are playing up, you can come into the general wide seated pose. You can come into half lotus or full lotus. And I'll just show you another variation of swastikasana, bringing the toes into the back of the knee crease. The other foot comes underneath, lifting the toes into the other knee crease, adjusting the block, and this gives me a nice stable seat also. So contrasting the doorway that we built at the beginning of class, stabilize the pelvis, rock forward and backward until you feel perpendicular in the lumbar spine. Press down with the hips, ribs and the back of the neck lift, shoulders roll back and down, palms face up. So feel the foundation of the seated pose, stable. So the word asana in yoga means your seat in relationship to the earth. So all our poses are designed to prepare us for a seated position that's not going to distract us from meditation. Feel the fluidity in the shoulders, the elbows, and the hands. Feel the structure, the lift in the spine, the neck, the head. And then feel the fluidity in the face. Sometimes a Mona Lisa smile here can generate that sense of softness. And then the ultimate fluidity is the fluidity of the breath. Feel how the breath flows in and out. In and out. So this amazing substance we call air we walk around in it all day. We breathe it into and out of the body every few seconds. The absence of air would be the absence of life as we know it. So the presence of air allows us to experience who we are in this physical form. We can dive under the ocean. We have to take the air with us. We travel to outer space. We have to take the air with us. Where we go, the air goes. Without the air, our experience of life becomes different. Feel that fluidity in and out of the body. A big part of our meditation in yoga is the aspect of pranayama, of studying the breath. And the ultimate goal with pranayama is to simply become so aware of the movement of breath that we move into meditation. So 100% awareness of the breath and meditation become the same. And then once again, knowing that The beauty of these in-home yoga classes is you can remain in meditation for as long as you like. You can come down to Shavasana. And you can transition into the next action of your day. And knowing you can come back to the same video over and over again, or other videos that are posted on Berkshire Yoga Dance and Fitness or my website at any time. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.